Story 1. Because I work hard, my body is deteriorating faster than most, and I can tell daily due to constant pain. If I cannot do it, my family cannot have a comfortable life. If I were to pass away tomorrow, it would be a huge financial hit even with my life insurance policy. I just hope I can keep going until the last person has left the nest. Story 2. I hate the stereotypes associated with my being a man. Before anyone knows me, because I am a man, people think they automatically know my intentions. Often, they could not be further from the truth. Story 3. When people ask me how I am doing or how I have been, the only possible answers are fine, good, or great. Story 4. How instantly you get negatively judged as a man no matter what your heart is like inside. It makes you feel like a criminal who has to keep seeking forgiveness and endure criticism because of your gender. Otherwise, you get dismissed for whining. I was on the staff at some event, and one thing drilled into the male staff was if we saw an unattended child, to stay well away and instead flag down one of the female staff members to deal with the child. Otherwise, we could be exposed to complaints from the public or worse. I would never bring any of this up in real life, though. People would not appreciate hearing it. Story 5. Aggressively praising or acknowledging my masculinity feels extremely patronizing and condescending, like a group of people patting a dog on the head for being a good boy. Story 6. Lack of guidance. Women generally support each other in becoming better women. However, men do not have a clear compass defined by either sex. You cannot be too feminine, or nobody will like you. You cannot be too masculine, or women will say it is toxic, leading to debates about what constitutes a healthy form of masculinity. It is unfortunate that men have to discover what it means to be a man by themselves in isolation, rather than having a proper example. Story 7. What timing? I'm sitting here in my pool thinking about how my parents don't care about me. I'm 50 years old, super successful, have an amazing, beautiful wife and children, but it still hurts. Why don't they care? These are the people who are supposed to care the most about me, aren't they? I have no one to talk to about it. I was thinking about people to see if there is anyone I could mention it to. Thanks for the question and allowing me to talk about feeling unwanted. I'm glad I could express it. Story 8. Being judged as a man by the size of my penis and my height by a group of people who condemn toxic masculinity. Story 9. How much I resent always having to be confident to get just about anything I want in life, even though I have never naturally been that way. Respect, acknowledgement, relationships, love, success. For women, confidence is a character perk. It is nice to have and will serve you well in life, but there are ways to work around lacking it and still do well for yourself. For men, it is a borderline character requirement, and you are often punished at times severely if you lack it. So even if you do not possess natural confidence and never really develop it, you still have to at least fake it till you make it or suffer the consequences if you do not. I really hate wearing this mask of confidence sometimes, but I have experienced the alternative of not having it, which is worse. Story 10. Everything I say or do can be taken as an act of aggression, and any attempt to correct it is seen as further aggression. So I do not talk much, and people think I am an idiot. Story 11. Everyone wants me to fix the car, the banister, the stove, and so on. My mom, my girlfriend, my sister. It is like I am the handyman, and that is not even what I do for a living. Story 12. The pressure to provide. When I was about 10 years old, everything started to focus on getting a good job to make enough money to support my future family. I wanted to be a paleontologist since I was about 6. When I started 6th grade, my father had a talk with me about career futures and essentially told me it was a dead end and would not be good for my future family. I mentioned to my wife once about her being the sole provider for a while after my military commitment, and she almost had a panic attack. Story 13. Knowing that you have to keep going. You are not allowed a break to feel tired. You just have to wake up and do it again. Story 14. The man cold. I struggled and hid it for days before giving up and climbing into bed. Suddenly, I felt weak and pathetic. Story 15. Having a stay-at-home mother and wife is great for our children, but there is a lot of stress on me being the sole breadwinner. If I fail, the family fails. Story 16. Whenever I die, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 60 years, No one will notice or care except maybe my manager. Story 17. All the unearned advantage I apparently have does not actually result in better jobs, more money, better health, or a longer life. Story 18. The constant pressure of managing my responsibilities while others depend on me, knowing that I have no fallback or safety net if I fail. Story 19. The pressures that come with being men often feel overwhelming, and I just want to break at times. However, it feels like expressing this gives people ammunition because it is expected for us to carry everything on our shoulders. Story 20. All of it. Women only look for ways to tell you that what you go through is not anywhere near what they have had to deal with, and other men have their own issues to handle. Story 21. I think most negative stereotypes about men are overblown, and it almost feels like the situation has been reversed from sexist times in the 1950s, where all you could do was roll your eyes at macho, loudmouth, I'm always right attitudes because men did not know what they were talking about. Let's say individuals. Story 22. The true extent of my stress, depression, and loneliness. I have opened up before, and it was a really unwise decision. Story 23. I was a terrible person in my past. I really hurt others, and the idea that I could be better seemed impossible. I have changed, but the old me will haunt me forever, and I think it should. Story 24. My girlfriend and I got into an argument, and it led to me telling her how stressed I am with various issues, from work to problems at home. She was angry and basically told me I only have myself to blame because I took on all this responsibility. It is ironic how it went from, I am so proud of you, and my hardworking man, to, it is your fault for taking on too much. It was a reality check on why I rarely show my frustrations in everyday life. Story 25. Sometimes I let gravity separate my testicles from my thigh because it feels more satisfying than using my hand. Story 26. Being expected to endure poor treatment and not allowed to express feelings about it. Story 27. I hate working for other people. I am working for everyone but myself. My bosses get richer off my efforts, and my family leads a good life without me because I am always working. Story 28. Inside my trousers rests a penis. As much as it pains me to hold this information in, announcing it publicly often gets a negative reaction, so I carry this burden in silence. Story 29. Knowing I will likely never be loved unconditionally. My worth to the society I live in is tied inexorably to what I provide, either to my employer or to my son. Story 30. I have trouble expressing when I want to be intimate with someone because I am afraid of coming across as inappropriate or reinforcing the stereotype that men only want one thing. Story 31. Expected to take charge in a relationship and make all decisions as the man. Listen, women who take charge are attractive. Story 32. When it comes to the whole, you are not alone message regarding depression and suicidal thoughts, that is great. But all I hear is, you are not the only one. You can never be in my head with me, and that is why I am alone. Story 33. How lonely it is. I have never really had positive experiences growing up. I was bullied, sexually assaulted by my closest friend as an adolescent, 11 to 12, and never really had people around me. My mom neglected my emotional health, while my dad completely neglected me. I had a couple of good friends growing up, but now they are gone, we just stopped talking. It has been almost 3 years since my last relationship ended in cheating twice, and she immediately jumped into another man's arms. My family never really cared about me, to be honest. I knew this from a young age. I often get cut off when I talk, so I just stop really talking and prefer to text people. I am just tired. I stay to myself, drink, do schoolwork, and play video games. Story 34. Anything that I feel is unfair or not right to me. This is specific to how I grew up, in an all-woman household with a divorced father who lives far away. Effectively, anything that I thought was unfair to me or made me uncomfortable were things that I learned to swallow down and keep quiet about. It didn't matter if it was being woken up in the middle of recovering from a fever to clean a dog kennel filled with vomit for a dog I never wanted, or if it was a single drop of water someone spilled on a toilet seat and I was immediately accused of peeing on it, or having distant relatives literally threaten me with physical violence for no reason. Yes, all of these happened. It all happened while I lived with my aunt and uncle, where my uncle was never home because of work and my aunt and two cousins did these things every single day while I was a high school junior. They had known me for less than a year. In the end, they called my parents and had me kicked out. From the messages I have seen, I am fully convinced they would have sent me to a psychiatric ward if my father had not agreed to take me. All of that happened after they specifically requested custody because I would be happier with them. Things like that still happen, and I am automatically the bad person for questioning anything, so I have learned that no matter what I am doing, my best option is to keep my mouth shut and not speak unless spoken to. To be honest, this sometimes backfires because people think I am weird because I don't talk, but I would rather be weird than be public enemy number one. Story 35. I am nobody's priority. It would not matter if I disappeared tomorrow. I have a whole family, I am married, and so on. Within a week, even the closest people to me will have moved on without much thought. I wish I were something that could be missed. Story 36. I only communicate what I am thinking when I drink. My wife told me this about 2 hours ago, and I have been mulling it over the whole time. It is probably true. I was showing her something on my phone, and she said it offhand. I have been drinking today, if I do not make that clear. I guess I am more guarded, and I think that is a trait of being a man. I guess I do not share with my wife when I am sober, and that makes me sad. The crazy thing is I have typed that out on Reddit before I told my wife. Story 37. Reading through the comments intensified my depression. I felt seen and heard in almost all of them. Story 38. Being a man is about service. Service to yourself. Eating sensibly. Exercising. Ensuring this is done without impacting those around you. Service to your family. Taking them out on trips. Taking them where they want to eat. Letting them watch what they want on television. Making sure the bills are paid and the house is maintained. Service to your community. Voluntary work. Helping political campaigns. Organizing events, parties, barbecues, get-togethers. Service to your company, work, or job. Ensuring that things are done efficiently. Helping everyone around you be the best version of themselves. Being there early, working overtime without drama if needed. Being respectful and caring of others in your work environment. Despite all of this, maybe for a few precious hours a month you will get some time for yourself. Whether that is down the bar with your friends or with other special people, you get a few hours. However, being a man is service. It is service to others, while many around you will say you are not doing enough already. Do it without expecting any gratitude. Story 39. Your worth is not only in what you can provide for others. Always give, but take a little time for yourself or it becomes toxic. My me time is not selfish. It is self-care. It does not matter what my me time involves. It is about taking care of myself. Story 40. Any negative feelings or complaints where a woman can hear them are immediately dismissed as wrong to express. You are told you are just being a winner or a burden. The only safe space for men is with other men. I would like to be proven wrong someday, but I doubt it. Story 41. It is not so much a gender issue, but I find it ironic that, as left-leaning as Reddit claims to be, women-centric forums that promote liberalism are ultimately close-minded, conservative, and puritanical when it comes to sex and pornography. Story 42. People act as if working grueling jobs and bringing home money to support a family is a privilege. When women work hard jobs, they are admired for their dedication. When men work hard jobs, people thank their wives for taking care of the home. Story 43. For me, it's the consolidation of all negative emotions into anger. It has been literal years since I have truly cried my eyes out, but I did feel better afterward. Now my tear ducts do not cooperate, and I just have to angrily scream all my sadness out instead. It does not hit the same. Story 44. Lending a kind hand to help others in need and them thinking I am expecting something in return or doing it to take advantage of them in some way simply because I am a man. Story 45. There are days when I feel very low emotionally and physically, but I am not allowed to vent or take a break. Story 46. I am just as worried about my weight and the way I look as many women are. I have always been thin but am beginning to gain weight around my waist. Whenever I bring it up, I am met with, "Oh, you look great. Thanks, but body dysmorphia tells me otherwise." I go around most days with my guts sucked in. The irony is that I have always had a healthy diet and am pretty active. Physically, I feel great. I should be very happy with my body, but I am almost 40 and mostly just feel shame. Story 47. The kind of feeling that I don't have emotions or they don't run as deep, and the attitude that men should just move on or get over whatever bothers us, and our needs being a bit invisible. This week, a training course I wanted to do from work fell through. I was actually looking forward to it because it was a good opportunity. It really upset me that the opportunity went away, especially since it's the only training I've wanted or asked for in years. The response from my wife was basically, "Sorry, that sucks." If the roles were reversed and she lost that opportunity, I would be discussing us paying for the training or any other similar opportunities. But for me, it's just assumed I will move on and do something else. Story 48. My brother broke down in my kitchen last week, feeling like a failure as a father. He works 60-hour weeks to provide for his children but misses their games and recitals. Watching him sob about how his own father was never around, and now he is doing the same thing, I just held him while he cried. Story 49. I feel like I am working my life away. I work 2 jobs to support myself, my family, and my parents. I carry the responsibility for everyone and often feel very lonely, despite having a family. Sometimes I feel a little jealous of my stay-at-home wife, who looks after the family but has more free time, friends, and a social life than I do. I keep going because I love my family and want the best for them. Story 50. Having to silently absorb all the criticism directed at men and masculinity while still being expected to embody it. People tell us we are inadequate if we act like a man and inadequate if we do not act like a man. Story 51. We sit with our legs apart for comfort, not to take over the next seat or for any other reason. If society accepted men adjusting themselves in public, there would be much less manspreading. Story 52. Every time I get on my motorcycle, I have to adjust myself. If I don't, they vibrate under me and get hurt, which is painful. Sometimes, if women see me getting on the bike, I have to decide if it is okay for them to see me adjust or if I should get on the bike and adjust myself after I am out of sight. Story 53. The isolation and almost debilitating anxiety and frustration of living with an ex for 2 years have been a test of will, self-control, and a great deal of humility. She was the one who ended the relationship. I will not get into all the nonsense and rage-inducing foolishness of it. In summary, it truly sucks. Do not do it. Being broke, making sacrifices, or even chewing off an appendage would be better. Story 54. The double standard of how the women at my workplace want me to befriend them and be overly social and flirty with them. Meanwhile, if we had never worked together and I tried to approach them in a bar or nightclub, they would never give me the time of day and would not care. I would just be another invisible man. Story 55. How am I not allowed to have my feelings hurt? You are a man. You are supposed to take it stoically. The only emotion allowed to be expressed when hurt is anger, and even that only because people are too scared to show vulnerability. Story 56. How we have no innate value and are only loved conditionally by others. All our problems are disregarded since the assumption is that we are riding high on male privilege, regardless of our suicide rates. Story 57. There are no days off. I do not get a day when I can just lay my burdens down and have someone else be strong. The day your dog dies, your mother finds out she has cancer, or your unborn child might have a defect. Story 58. Speaking out against circumcision, it is so ingrained in American culture that trauma from hating it is often not taken seriously by therapists and doctors. Having parts of your body removed against your desire is the clearest trauma that could exist, but some people are so completely convinced that it is good in the United States that they cannot even process criticism of it. Luckily, I found a good therapist who really understands, and I did not have to convince her. Story 59. It's less about understanding and more about how it would make me look and what speaking about it would change. And it's all parts. Like, I don't tend to speak about my struggles in general. Do people normally do that? Story 60. I need to engage in intimate activity until my partner reaches climax first. I once went through a 20-hour marathon. I literally had to apply ice for relief. Trust me when I say I know how to please, but every woman is different. Women on antidepressants present unique challenges. However, intimate activity can be exhausting. Story 61. Time was when I would have answered along the lines of show who is boss behavior by women who are higher in the administrative hierarchy, but I actually think we are past that now. Story 62. If you support young men's careers at work, you could be seen as out of touch. If you get too involved with children in your community, you could be stigmatized as inappropriate. Story 63. My stoicism is not strength. It is cowardice. My anxious mind is under the constant fear that expressing weakness, need, or desire will be met with ridicule and rejection. Of course, this could be due to mental illness from a neglected childhood, but I receive recognition as manly for it, so I am counting it. Story 64. Wait, I was supposed to hide my feelings and bottle that up? Well, damn. I guess I am not good at being a man. Story 65. If I say I feel bad, people always ask why, and often I just do not know. There are many stressful things going on, and I do not know which one led me to this mood. I usually just act happy. Story 66. Men are expected to control themselves every day or they end up branded as violent. Yet women behave irrationally and are told it is hormones or time of the month. Story 67. Nothing really. I will talk about any problem to at least my best friend. Now, he might be the only person I can tell, so I have to wait until the next time we talk, but I eventually get it off my chest. Story 68. I give a lot of emotional support to people in my life. I am there no matter what when people call me. My friend's wife left at the start of last year. My friend in San Francisco had a big breakup, and I flew out to support her. My sister had a difficult time at work, and I helped her stay grounded and not overreact. My ex had unexpected surgery, and I flew out to Shanghai to take care of her for 4 weeks. I live alone, and the only voice in my house from Monday to Friday is my own. Story 69. There are very few men into men in my area, so I am basically stuck with women for my beyond platonic needs. Women as a group are overwhelmingly biphobic, and they spend equal amounts of effort criticizing bisexuality as they do celebrating how supportive they are of gay, lesbian, and transgender people. 2/3 of women, 66%, say they would never consider dating a bisexual man. This is not about aesthetic differences. It is literally going, oh, he is perfect and monogamous, but he also can find men attractive. No, I want a real man, not someone with a disease. It is bigotry, plain and simple, and it is rampant. But no one cares. Bisexual men are 5% of the population, and only 10% of us are out because of discrimination like this. Bisexual women get fetishized excessively, but bisexual men exist to be invisible until hated. This is a significant part of my eating disorder. Story 70. The pain of losing your father. Coming across pieces of their past, seeing a photo, recognizing a mannerism that you share, wanting to just call them for advice. Story 71. I can't slow down. I'm 30 and work 60 to 65 hours a week to get by. I can't take it easy on the weekends because there is always something to get done, and nobody else is doing it. It's either cleaning, working on one of the cars, working in the yard, or anything else that needs to be done. Currently, I am fixing an old riding lawnmower so I don't have to spend 3 hours mowing an acre with a push mower. I have my landlord's car outside that they hired me to work on because they would probably pay me half a month's rent. I just can't afford to take time off from doing anything. The only thing that gives me comfort is knowing I can drink during the day on Saturday while getting everything done. Story 72. I cannot express my frustrations or rant about something a woman has done, or complain about a situation where I was treated differently because I am a man, without worrying that the person I am talking to will think I am a misogynist trying to trash women in general. Story 73. I am 45 years old and I am used to the loneliness now. Being alone feels nice, but I feel like I am becoming more and more disconnected from the world. Story 74. Being expected to initiate everything as someone who is naturally shy and reserved makes it extremely difficult to find a partner. I can't be myself or I would be single for life. Also, it is not as common with American women, but the attitude of learned helplessness. Expecting the man to do all the physical work is frustrating. They command you to bring them things they could easily get themselves in under a minute, but they have you do it. If it were something heavy that they would physically struggle with, I would not have a problem. However, that is not the case most of the time. They just want you to do it because you are a man, which is silly. Story 75. The constant suicidal thoughts of ending my life due to the crippling loneliness. Even though I am surrounded by good people, but not having anyone to have a heartfelt talk with. I think to myself that no one will miss me, but I do not commit to ending it all because even my funeral would be a burden. Story 76. I once accidentally overdosed and nearly died. I have fond memories of the peace, darkness, and serenity before I woke up in the ambulance. Story 77. This is well said. I teach high school seniors, and at least every other year I have to explain why YouTubers like Andrew Tate are mistaken and how his views on women will guarantee a lifetime of loneliness or misery in a relationship if they can find a woman who is willing to tolerate that behavior long enough to get married. It is wild out there, everyone. Story 78. I've always had the belief that if you have the ability to help, it is your responsibility to do so. However, it turns out that it is not solely my responsibility. I have completely lost control and any boundaries of what ability means, physically, financially, and emotionally. I am pretty spent, but I just keep going. Story 79. My mental illnesses cause me to be borderline dysfunctional sometimes, but I have to keep going anyway because if I were to talk about it, I would just be seen as being soft or dramatic. Story 80. I think when you are the protector, it is hard to explain. You understand the gist of it by default, but there is more to it than you realize if you are actually worth it. You hear a sound in the middle of the night. That is you. One of your people is walking too close to the street. That is you. I personally never sit with my back to a door in a public place, so I can always keep a visual of all activity around my family. It is honestly like another job, but one I would not trade for anything. Story 81. Telling my parents what I want to do seems stupid to them. They say I should do this or that. I just told them I bought a notebook so I can draw, and that is when they said, that's why you have a rebellious child. Story 82. The feeling of injustice is foolish, but that is what I feel. Conversely, the recognition that I do not care about the opinions of others is equally foolish, but that is what I feel. Story 83. Either the fact that nobody cares or the fact that you constantly get told things like you need to open up more or show more emotion, and you constantly hear that men only have 3 emotions, hungry, horny, and angry. But when you finally do open up and show more emotion, it is held against you or used against you, so we have to keep things to ourselves. Or the fact that we are pretty much alone despite being surrounded by people. For example, I have not talked to 3 of my closest friends since before January of this year. I have reached out but have not heard anything back. I know that it is nothing personal, and they are just trying to navigate through their own struggles. But it is still a constant reminder that we really only have ourselves and dogs. Now watch, a woman is going to respond and try to make this about them. Story 84. Damned if you do. Women complain about equality when it is just a scam to usurp rights and power on an uneven scale. Damned if you do not. We need all of our men aged 17 to 65 to sacrifice their bodies, time, and energy to cater to the demands of the few. We need our workers back in the fields for us. Story 85. A lot of the men responding have pointed out being the strong one, the last line of defense, and not being able to be vulnerable. If someone wants a short, succinct statement, I think the man mentioned in this clip gives that. The women in our lives would rather see us die on our white horse than fall from it. Story 86. Thank you to every man who opened up in this thread. Your honesty means more than you know. It is the very reason I started the Solemn Sir. Reading these comments reminded me that we need more spaces where men can speak freely and be heard. Story 87. I hate violence and aggressiveness, and people speaking too loud or shouting really bother me. I dislike the idea of being competitive because I know I can be a sore loser. That said, most would view me as weak or timid. I do not like the idea of being seen as less than a man, but I hate fighting, aggression, and competitiveness even more. Story 88. Being the person that many others turn to for help and advice while never being offered help in return is just part of being a man in my view. I do not want or expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I do not want or expect anything in return. Taking responsibility for the care and protection of others gives me a sense of purpose that is all the reward I need. A bit of acknowledgement and appreciation from time to time is a nice bonus. Story 89. My annoyance at the complete and total lack of consistency and clarity on what constitutes being a valid man is significant. It is wildly different for everyone based on how their parents raised them. It is also convoluted, especially now, and since men are not allowed to talk about it, we just have to keep throwing darts in the dark, I guess. Story 90. I am female and work as a therapist. One thing I have noticed is how many men struggle with touch starvation. They sit in my office talking about how they cannot remember the last time someone hugged them or gave them a genuine compliment. Story 91. Comment section summarized. Problems that people have because they are poor, not because they are men. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.